Today I'm so excited. I have Eve Slemp as my guest, and Eve is a high school senior at East Lyme. She is pursuing her passion of writing through becoming a reporter. She's a news editor, opinion editor, editor-in-chief for the East Lyme Viking saga. And along with her writing, she's demonstrated great interest in music by playing the violin since she was just a little girl. And she's in the honors orchestra and numerous musical festivals. She hopes to continue her interest in English through her college career. So Eve, you have given up some time from your college applications to come and meet with me and chat with me. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
Oh, it's just so lovely. And you know, you're following in my daughter's footsteps because she was the Viking Saga co-editor when she was at school.
That's right.
And now she's working for the New York Times. So there's a great legacy that goes with this school newspaper. I was just reading the article that just came out, and it's just such a beautiful newspaper, nice and glossy. You can just see, you know, beautiful color photos. And your article really struck me, and it was entitled "The Summer I Checked," not checked, because we're always checking our phones. So it's kind of a play on words, I think, right? The summer I checked my phone. So you were gone for a couple of weeks up to Vermont, which is such a beautiful state, so rustic, and the scene is just gorgeous. So you were up there and you didn't have your phone for a while. What was that like?
It was actually an amazing experience. So this is a music summer camp I go to every year, and we really connect with nature and just playing music in nature and meeting friends. I've made so many lifelong friends there. And a big policy they have is no internet, no phones. You can bring your phone, but like they take your SIM card. But I've really learned to appreciate that because the instant connection that we have nowadays is crazy stressful. Like during the school year and at home, I'm constantly getting notifications, and I didn't realize how big of a stressor that is in my daily life. And when I go to this camp and I don't have my phone on me, it's just so relieving. It's like
you can just kind of breathe. Yeah, you can breathe for a little bit.
Yeah, and it's just the area is so serene, and I can finally just breathe. You know.
Good. Where is it in Vermont?
It's in Leicester.
Okay. It's a very famous camp. I think my cousins went there. And
oh, really?
Yes.
It's a very nice camp, and I have such a great time playing chamber music. It's unique because at my school, so I play the violin, and we have an orchestra, but we don't have little chamber ensemble groups with quartets or trios. So at that camp, I get to experience that for 2 weeks, and we just play music.
Such a rich experience. I'm so glad that you had that. But I like it towards the end of the article you wrote. After the 2 weeks were over, I was eager to come home to see my friends back in East Lyme. Yes, I could feel the immediate disconnect. I couldn't be upset or expect them to put those 2 weeks on hold while I was gone, but I didn't expect to feel more lonely when I came back, when I left. Wow, that's really strong. That's really penetrating, yeah. So were you able, of course, with time, you just catch up, but...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so... Yeah, basically, when I came back, like, they had their own lives going on. I was just kind of disconnected from society for a while. So I did feel a big disconnect because I didn't talk to them at all for 2 weeks. People I talked to every day for hours. It was a really weird shift. But like now we're back and everything's fine.
Of course.
But it was just a really weird transition to come back, and I just didn't feel as close to them as prior. But
it tests the relationship a little bit, and I think it puts different priorities first, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I challenge you to put the phone down, even outside of the high school you go on. Leave it at home or in the car. Zip it in your backpack. Silence it. Tell me about that. Why would that be an important thing to do?
I think after reflecting on my experience, I just really enjoyed not having my phone, and I think even teenagers nowadays, like, we constantly have our phone and we forget how to just take a moment to be in the moment.
I don't think it's just teenagers, Eve.
Well, yeah, I know. I see it with adults too. In restaurants, I see people on their phones, and I was talking to my mom about it. My mom hates the phone. And
of course she's got one, but of course,
right.
Yeah. It's a love-hate relationship.
Exactly. And she tells me that before phones, like, people would have conversations in restaurants. I mean, like, obviously people still do, but we notice that people in restaurants are just on their phones, like with their families. And it's really disappointing to see that, because dinner and like restaurant time is like a time to connect and communicate with each other.
I hear you. Yeah, I think it's a little bit addicting too, where you just want that energy and want that buzz.
Right,
Okay,
absolutely.
so much about phones. So you're doing your college applications, you're playing the violin. Tell me what it's been like at the high school post-COVID. Like, that was a huge stressor, because 2 of your 4 academic years at the high school were kind of during COVID, right? So we're not, I mean, COVID still exists, but we're kind of easing out of it. We don't have to wear masks anymore. We're not hyper vigilant about sanitizing all the time. We're careful, but tell me what it's like.
Currently, right now, we don't have many restrictions or any restrictions at all. It feels pretty normal. We just had our Spirit Week,
Nice.
which is lots
And
of
the seniors
pets.
won, I heard.
Right, yeah.
Good.
Super great. But that was the first normal Spirit Week we've had in 2 years.
Oh.
And it was just so great. During the pep rally, it was inside in the gym. Everyone was super excited. We had homecoming 2 nights ago.
Fun.
And I was inside, and it was just, the spirit was back at East Lyme, and it was super exciting to see that again, because I haven't had that since my freshman year. So it's kind of a nice full circle in a way, starting East Lyme with that pep and ending it, even though my sophomore year and junior year were kind of restricted.
Right, altered state. Okay. So I wanted to talk to you too. You're very interested in literature, and you probably have a couple of favorite teachers at the high school. And you also really like history too, right? Do you have some favorite people that you'd like to give shout outs to that are your go-to like mentors and advisors at the high school?
Yeah, of course. My journalism teacher, Mr. Beal, he has been a great support system, and I've had him since freshman year. I had him for freshman year English, and he's the one that actually got me interested in journalism.
Nice.
I never considered journalism prior to my freshman year. I wanted to be a doctor, like my mom.
Sure.
And I figured, my whole family is STEM and loves science, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Is your dad a doctor as well?
My dad's a chemist.
A chemist,
and my
okay.
sister is a biochemist.
Okay.
So everything is super science related at my house. So I figured, oh, that's where I'm supposed to be. And so journalism is a sophomore year course. Typically people take it sophomore year, junior, and senior year. And I was set to take chemistry instead of journalism. But Mr. Beal reached out to me, and he convinced me to join journalism, and it was the best decision I've made, because I realized this is who I am, this is who I want to be, and I really understood that I am not a science person. I love English, and I want to continue that.
Well, good. Well, you have really good outreach and engagement techniques. So you love Mr. Beal, but it sounds like there might be another teacher that has written a letter of recommendation for you that you really look up to as well.
Yes, definitely. My history teacher from last year, AP US History, his name is Mr. Hernandez, and I really enjoyed his class. And I actually met him sophomore year during an interview for the saga, and I connected with him, and I really looked up to him, and I loved his class last year, and I just feel like he's a great support system for me. I still go to him sometimes if I need help, or if I want to tell him something that happened. I really formed a great connection with him, and I really appreciate that.
Nice. And he is an English teacher.
History.
He's history
Yes,
still.
he's
Okay.
history.
Okay. That's what I thought. Okay. And then I wanted to talk to you about this IPP project that you and I were involved with last year. And I really appreciate that, because you were just amazing. And IPP stands for Intergenerational Poetry Project. And I did this with my friend Melanie Greenhouse, who is a known playwright in the area, and then Dr. Chris Moran, who is really an important physician that works a lot on geriatric medicine and that kind of thing, and is involved with the Mystic Geriatric Institute. So these are some people that we have to just give shout outs to. They're amazing people. But what did you do? Do you want to put it in a synopsis? Like, what did you do? What was your part of the project?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 students from my high school were selected for this project. And we honestly had no idea what we were going into. We just said yes. And neither of us have ever written poetry before. We're not poets, we're journalists. So We had meetings with Mrs. Greenhouse and Dr. Morin, and her name is Noelle. She was the editor-in-chief last year.
Right, and she's off to college
right,
now.
Bryn
Right,
Mawr.
yeah,
Yes, she
yeah.
loves it there.
Good.
But we were a little nervous about writing poetry. It's a very daunting task for people who are not familiar with that. And so we were assigned elders. Each of us had an elder. My elder was named Hardeep. And so I would meet with her.
You met a few times.
I met her a few times, like 2 hours. Like, it was long sessions, like 2 hours. And I really got to know her.
And she was such an interesting person, I think. It's such a
Yeah.
beautiful subject for you. And I had met her originally through a writing project that I was doing at the senior center, and from Africa, but Indian in heritage, and then went to the nursing school in the UK, right? So just like such a three-part amazing process of understanding who she was as a person. But go ahead.
Right, yeah. I really enjoyed learning about her story. And that's what I love about journalism. I love hearing other people's stories and then making it come to life through words. And so I would meet with her, learn about her story, and then I got to the task of actually writing, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to write poems.
Right. But I think the interesting thing is that Melanie Greenhouse didn't care about it rhyming, there was no poetic thing. It was just having everything shrunk down into the fewest words necessary to describe whatever the emotion, the situation, the texture, the color, the ambiance of the situation, right?
And there was a big emphasis on hands. I remember she wanted to do a lot with hands. But I had a really great experience, and I ended up writing 5 really heartwarming poems.
Well, and the other thing is that those are family legacies for Hardeep now. I don't know if you've heard that since then, but she treasures those, and those are going to be something that they will share with the next generation. So you have really embarked upon changing their lives, or making her lives feel very important and valuable.
Oh, that makes me feel so happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad to hear that.
Well, and the other thing is that it was during the pandemic, and you realize that. So Hardeep is in her 80s. I don't remember how old exactly. I don't think older than 80, but late 80s, and was lonely. It was her and her husband, she and her husband all by herself most of the day. So you brought new life and light and energy and, your vitality of what you're doing, running, everything, million things going on simultaneously. Right. So that changed her life. You changed her life. And maybe she changed yours a little bit. I don't know.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I remember at the poetry reading, I was very nervous to read my poems because I wanted to make sure I captured her story correctly.
Yep.
So I remember standing at the podium, kind of like shaking with my poems in my hand. But after I kind of walked through her stages of life, each poem was a different part of her life.
I remember that.
And when I read it and I finished reading, I looked up and it was just silent. And I was like, oh no, did I do something?
No,
but then,
you did do something. You touched her life, yeah.
Right? And then I noticed she was crying. And I've never moved someone that way through my words before. And that
Lovely. And that's why being a journalist is so important, or a poet, or language and literature is just so powerful. So do you have that poem with you? Did you happen to bring it?
I have lots of them, actually.
Would you want to share it with us?
I could.
Okay.
I'm trying to think which one. How many do you want me to read?
Well, just, we've got a few minutes, and there's plenty of other things to talk about, but whichever one that you thought was maybe your proudest, or maybe that Hardeep liked the best, whichever one, your choice.
Okay. My favorite one is the last one. It kind of sums up, it's like her reflecting on her life.
Okay.
So she talked about, like we said earlier, how she grew up in Africa, her experiences with racism, and then how she went to the UK to study nursing and her experience there. But this poem is called Blessings.
Okay.
And it's her reflecting on her life.
And don't read it too fast, because I want to sink in and drink in every single word that you say, okay?
Of course. Blessings. Every day is an experience. People accomplish so much, and life changes so much. It makes you appreciate life, You don't know if there will be a later, or a tomorrow, or a next day. As a nurse, every day is a blessing. Every day is life-changing. This person who was so smart, so wise, so successful, I cannot always save them. Just as they grasp the pinnacle of life, they're gone. As a nurse, every day is a blessing.
Wow.
Every day is a chance to make a difference. People suffer so much. Men, women, children. I use my hands to heal, to touch, to comfort. I see the difference I can make and appreciate today. As a nurse, every day is a blessing. Every day is a blessing. The world can be a scary place. I have no right to ask for anything else because I am so lucky to be who I am, to live where I live, to have what I have. What more can I ask for? I have everything I need. Every day is a blessing.
Isn't that powerful? That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, nice. And when you did that with Melanie, what were some of the coaching techniques that she suggested for you? How did she help you to make it easier or better?
She focused a lot on having a conversation, and like you said earlier, don't focus on rhyming. Focus on capturing her voice. So that's what I try to do. I really wanted to capture Hardeep and her voice and her experience, and that's how I wrote these poems.
That's huge. Tell me a little bit more about racism. Is there anything else in some of the poetry that you did that talks about racism? And I think it was when she was a nursing student in the UK where she didn't feel like maybe she fit in so much, or was that what it was? Help me to remember that better.
Yeah, so she experienced a bit of racism when she was in Africa, because there were British colonists there. And then, so that's where she experienced a lot of racism. And then when she went to Britain, she realized that we are all human. And that's the name of the poem when she's studying in UK. She's realizing that she's not so different from everyone else.
Nice. Okay, go ahead, please.
So I have one when she's in Africa and one when she's in the UK. I'll read the We Are All Human one.
Okay.
All right. The British people came to Kenya and were told to keep away from us colored folk. The British people were given the best treatment, although they were not from here. The British people were treated like royalty. I went to London to study nursing. In dark gray September, I sat in a train and looked out the window at the dreary houses which matched the dreary sky. Where are the castles? Where are the mansions? Where are the golden gates? In their places were gray houses, gray roads, and gray skies. Maybe not all white folk had rich houses, or rich cars, or rich china, or rich thoughts. I went to college to study nursing. I feared I was not good enough compared to the white students around me. I felt inferior. But I was far from right. Everyone worked hard. We all struggled. We all had the same experiences. We all were students. We all are supporters. We all are one. We all are human.
That's really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd love to hear the next one, too.
Right. So this is called In Africa. It's about her growing up in Africa.
And she was born in Africa, if I remember correctly. Right.
In Africa. In Africa, I saw the long-necked giraffes, black-striped zebras, and wild wildebeest roam freely. In Africa, I saw the brown dirt roads, brown family farms, brown mud huts, and brown people. In Africa, I saw people like me. I lived with people like me. I went to school with people like me. Brown kids, brown teachers, brown floors, brown walls. In Africa, I lived in a tight brown community where everyone knew everything about everyone. In Africa, I felt brown beauty, brown love, brown security, and brown comfort. Yet, in Africa, not everyone had brown comfort. There too were comforts of white and black. White, brown, black, we were separate. In Africa, there were white hospitals, brown hospitals, black hospitals. White schools, brown schools, black schools. White communities, brown communities, black communities. In Africa, we were separate, and that's how we liked it. We found love and comfort with the color of our own skin and avoided the prejudice from those of different colors. In Africa, we value our own culture and live among our own people. In Africa, I had brown comfort.
That's really powerful. It's really powerful. And how do you take that back to school, Eve? Because right now we're working on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and helping everybody to feel included in our school environment, and helping all of our students. And there's a lot of talk about that. What is your perception on that?
Well, I thought Hardeep's story was interesting because she changed. So in the previous poem I wrote about the one "We Are All Human," she changes her perception, and she sees, she realizes that we're all equal, we're all the same, we all have the similar experiences.
But as a youth, as a young girl, she felt like it was the right thing for each color group to be separated, but then realized as she aged that...
Right, because when she was growing up, that's just how it was. And she felt uncomfortable with different groups because she was treated differently. So she liked the comfort of her brown community.
Sure.
But going to England and being in a more diverse community than her brown community, then she realized that it doesn't have to be this way. And I think going back to my school, we do promote diversity and equity. I remember last year we have a DEI community, a student-led one. We had a walkout, we had an assembly, and we're really trying to enforce diversity in our community, in our school. My French teacher, for the French Honor Society.
This is Madame Casey?
Madame Casey, yes.
I know Madame Casey.
We have been working on the diversity mural. It's right outside Mr. Beale's room, actually.
It is. It's moved up there now.
Yeah,
lovely.
And I actually helped paint it, and it's full of color and vibrancy, and it's just to remind us that we're all in this together.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And she does an amazing job because she's very supportive of what's going on in Haiti and the Haitians and the atrocities that they've experienced recently. So, that's really powerful. So what happened with the walkout, and what happened with some of the discussions from that?
So I think students were upset with how admin had dealt with things in the past, and they wanted to walk out to demonstrate that they wanted some action. And so I think admin responded greatly, and they're really making an effort to help make students feel more comfortable. And I think it was great that it was student-led. It shows a lot of initiative from East Lyme students. And I think it was a great step towards making East Lyme more inclusive.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And there's been a lot of talk about reparations, too. And they say when a behavior occurs when it's not what you would like for inclusiveness or diversity or acceptance, you don't ask why, you ask what happened and what can we do to make it a better situation next time it comes around, right? Because there's so many different protected classes, right? I mean, even women don't get the opportunities and accesses to different things that men often get, or, it can be color, it can be age, it can be sexual orientation, right? There's just so many different ways that we exclude other people, so... Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah. So tell me about what's going on with the Viking saga. There's been a little computer glitch recently, or a virus that went through our system. So you have some challenges coming ahead with the next editions that are going to be published.
Yes, we definitely do. Our team has been working very hard to make sure everything is getting in on time. We have an edition coming out this Thursday. And one of the editors-in-chiefs, Ruby, she's our Pages editor, so she's been working very hard this weekend to make sure everything's ready for print, because we don't have access to internet at our school. All of our laptops got taken.
And they have to be re-imaged, just what I was told, right?
Right, and so I think she's been working very hard. We all have. I think it's all set for this upcoming edition, but the next edition might get pushed back because we just got articles in yesterday, but we can't.
You do what you can do,
Right.
I mean, everybody understands, yeah. So is there anybody from the team that you want to mention particularly besides Ruby?
Well, Kennedy, she's also my friend. She's the content editor-in-chief. So she edits all of the articles, and she writes really great opinions as well.
Nice.
Especially last year, she wrote one about people not using a specific word to address women, a slur. But yeah, no, she has great opinions, great ideas, and she's super supportive. We all are, us three girls. We love each other and we love the team, and we really want to make this saga the best it can be.
Nice. Well, it'll be a lifelong relationship, I'm sure. And I told you already that my daughter was a Viking Saga editor, so whenever I get a copy, I'll take one to her. She's so proud of it still to this day. Yeah, so that's great. So tell me about your athletics. You run track, and you're on the field, and you pole vault. That's a lot. How do you keep up with all of this?
It's super time demanding. So right now I'm doing cross country. I've been doing that since freshman year. I really enjoy it. I love running because it kind of clears my mind.
My daughter said the same thing yesterday. She's working on a big article, and she said, "Mom, just that run for 45 minutes was the thing that cleared her head to helped her to be able to write." She said, sometimes writing just isn't when you have pen to paper or fingers to the keyboard. It's when you're physically exerting yourself and you can clarify what it is.
Exactly. So I really enjoy it. It makes me happier.
Good.
And yeah.
The endorphins kick in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, and then pole vault. What's that like?
Oh, that's very hard.
I've always admired anybody that can do that, so that's great.
Yeah, it's taken a lot of time to get decently good at it. I decided to do it because a senior my freshman year told me to try it, and I did, and it was really hard, and I was really bad at it, but I just kept going, and now there's only 2 pole vaulters now, and I love it. It's so fun. Once you understand how to do it, it's amazing.
That's really cool.
Like flying in the air.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to let me know when your next event is so I can come and be in the crowds to support you and say good job. All right. So any advice that you would give to a freshman or to somebody just in middle school thinking about what they might do when they're in high school? I think clubs are really important and sports are really important. Anything other piece of advice that you would offer to incoming high school students?
I would say don't be afraid to ask questions.
Okay.
Try everything. In the saga, we are big on communication, and if we don't know something, it's okay. We ask each other. It's all about communication and connection. And so if freshmen are interested, just reach out to us, and we love to talk to people.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Eve, for being a guest on my show today. You've been absolutely a lovely, lovely, warm, and charming. So keep up the good work. Best of luck in your career in college, and look forward to having you back on the show and finding out what you're up to later on.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
My pleasure.